poor cowboy gave 2 drinks and a sack of wheat, and took the Apache woman home as his wife. Tom Harris was a young cowboy who lived on the wide, dusty plains of Arizona. The sun rose early in the morning, casting a golden light over the rolling hills and the sparse trees that dotted the landscape. Tom's home was small, a modest wooden cabin at the edge of town, with a corral for a few cows and a patch of dry land he tried to farm. Life was not easy for him. Every day was a struggle. Some days he barely had enough to eat, and some days he wondered if his hard work would ever pay off. But no matter how tough life got, Tom was known in his town for his honesty, his kindness, and his quiet determination. He woke up every morning before the sun fully rose, putting on his worn boots and hat, brushing his coat of dust off, and heading out to check on his cattle. The cows were thin, but he loved them as if they were family. He would lead them to the small river nearby, making sure they had water to drink and grass to eat. He worked from dawn until dusk, fixing fences, mending saddles, and doing small chores around the town. Even though he did not have much, he never complained. He believed that life was about hard work and good deeds. One hot summer day, Tom decided to ride into the nearby trading post. His cabin was almost empty of supplies. He had a small sack of wheat he had saved from the last harvest, hoping to trade it for essentials. The trading post was a busy place, always filled with townsfolk, cowboys, and travelers passing through. The air was heavy with dust, and the smell of leather, smoke, and roasted coffee beans filled the room. People were bargaining loudly over goods, trying to get the best deals. It was a chaotic but familiar place to Tom, who had visited many times before. As he entered the trading post, Tom's eyes wandered over the crowd. There were men buying tools, women shopping for fabrics, and children running around laughing. Then he noticed her. A young Apache woman sat near a small table selling handmade baskets and beaded necklaces. Her hands were nimble, carefully arranging her goods to attract buyers. She had dark hair tied back neatly and eyes that seemed to look right through the people rushing past her. She appeared calm, but Tom could see the hint of fatigue in her posture. It was clear that her day had been long, and few people were stopping to buy from her. Tom felt a strange pull in his heart. He could not explain why, but he wanted to help her. He walked over, nodding politely, and greeted her with a quiet, "Good morning." She looked up, startled, and then smiled, slightly. Her English was limited, but her eyes spoke volumes. Tom noticed a small child sitting beside her, probably her younger brother, who watched everything with curiosity. Both of them looked tired, and Tom realized that they had been working all day under the hot sun. Without thinking too much, Tom reached into his small coin pouch. He did not have much money, but he counted enough to do something kind. He bought 2 cold drinks, one for the young woman and one for her brother, handing them over with a friendly smile. "Here, take these," he said. She hesitated for a moment, but then accepted them gratefully. The child's face lit up as he sipped the drink, and the woman's hands trembled slightly as she thanked him in a soft voice. Tom then placed the small sack of wheat he had brought onto the table. "Maybe this can help you too," he said simply. She looked at him in surprise. Few people in town would offer help without asking for something in return, and certainly few would do so with such honesty. She nodded, her eyes glistening with gratitude. There were no words for a moment, just a quiet understanding between them. Tom could feel a connection forming, something that went beyond language or culture. It was a simple act of kindness, but it felt significant to both of them. After a while, Tom realized he had to leave. He tipped his hat politely and walked out of the trading post, feeling a warmth in his heart he had not felt in a long time. He could not stop thinking about her. The way she moved with quiet grace, the patience in her eyes, and the gentle smile that had appeared when she accepted his gifts. For Tom, it was more than admiration. It was curiosity, respect, and a hint of something deeper he could not yet name. Over the next few days, Tom could not forget the young Apache woman. He found himself riding by the trading post whenever he could, sometimes just to catch a glimpse of her. He would see her arranging her goods, helping her little brother, and greeting people politely even when they were rude or dismissive. Tom admired her strength and calmness in a world that was often harsh and unforgiving. He also began to notice how different their lives were. He struggled with poverty, while she had to navigate a world that sometimes treated her unfairly because of who she was. But yet, despite the challenges, both of them showed resilience, courage, and determination. Tom began to think about the simple things he could do to help her. He offered to carry heavy bundles for her when no one else would. He would stop by to share food or water, making sure she and her brother had enough for the day. At first, she was hesitant, unsure of his intentions, but over time she began to trust him. A quiet friendship formed between them, built on small acts of kindness and mutual respect. The townspeople noticed, whispering among themselves about the unlikely connection between the poor cowboy and the young Apache woman. Some were skeptical, but others admired the bond growing before their eyes. Even though they came from different worlds, Tom and the young woman found a way to communicate. He learned bits of her language, and she learned some English. They would exchange simple words and gestures, laughing at misunderstandings, and slowly, a bridge formed between them. Tom felt a sense of peace he had never known, and she, too, seemed to relax in his presence. Their connection was quiet, unspoken, and sincere. Tom knew that life was not going to be easy for either of them. He was poor, and she faced prejudice and uncertainty in the town. Yet he believed that kindness and honesty could carry them through challenges. For now, though, he was content with small moments, sharing a drink, offering a sack of wheat, and seeing a smile light up her face. These small gestures planted the seeds of a story that would grow into something much larger, something that neither of them could have imagined at that first meeting in the trading post. As the sun set over the dusty plains, Tom rode back to his small cabin. The day had been long, and the work never seemed to end, but his heart felt lighter than it had in weeks. He thought about the young woman and her brother, about the quiet strength he had seen in her eyes, and about the strange, wonderful feeling that this encounter might change both of their lives forever. That night, as he lay under the wide-open sky, listening to the distant calls of coyotes and the whisper of the wind through the trees, he felt a quiet hope. Maybe, just maybe, life had something unexpected and beautiful in store for him after all. And so, the story of Tom Harris, the poor cowboy and the young Apache woman began, not with a grand gesture or a dramatic event, but with 2 simple drinks and a humble sack of wheat. Little did they know that this small act of kindness would mark the start of a journey that would test their courage, change their lives, and show them both the power of generosity, respect, and love in a world that often seemed too harsh for either. After that first meeting at the trading post, Tom Harris found it hard to stop thinking about the young Apache woman and her little brother. Her name, he learned over time, was Aylin, and she had a quiet strength that amazed him. He often wondered how someone so young could carry such responsibility with grace and patience. Every day she worked under the hot sun, selling handmade goods, tending to her younger brother, and trying to make a life in a town that was not always kind to people like her. Tom knew life had not been easy for her, and he felt a desire to help, not just with money or goods, but in any small way he could. The next morning, Tom woke before the sun, as he always did, thinking about how he could make Aylin's day a little easier. He grabbed some bread from his small kitchen, wrapped it carefully, and tied it in a cloth to carry. He also added some dried fruit and a few nuts he had saved. It was not much, but it was something. He mounted his horse and rode to the trading post, the cool morning air rushing past him as he rode over the dusty trail. As he approached, he could see Aylin setting up her small table with her handmade baskets and necklaces, her younger brother playing quietly at her side. Tom stopped nearby and called out a friendly greeting. Aylin looked up, her eyes lighting with recognition. She smiled faintly, and for a moment, the weight of her responsibilities seemed to lift. Tom walked over and handed her the small bundle of food. "I thought you might need something to eat," he said simply. Aylin nodded, her hands touching the cloth as if she could feel the kindness inside it. She offered a quiet, soft "thank you," and the little boy peeked at the food with wide eyes. It was a simple act, but it meant a lot. Over the next few weeks, Tom made it a habit to visit Aylin whenever he could. Some days he helped carry heavy baskets for her. Other days he shared water and food, or simply sat with her and listened while she worked. She taught him small words in her language, and he tried to teach her English words she did not know. Perhaps their communication was simple, often through gestures, smiles, and laughter. Yet, it was genuine, honest, and full of warmth. Slowly, the townspeople began to notice this unusual friendship. Some whispered behind their backs, questioning why a poor cowboy would spend so much time with a young Apache woman. Others watched with quiet admiration, recognizing that Tom's intentions were pure. Despite their growing closeness, life was still challenging. Desk family had little money, and Tom could barely provide for himself. The trading post was not always busy, and some days they would sell nothing at all. Aylin worked hard, but even her strength had limits. She had learned early in life that survival required effort, patience, and courage. Every coin she earned went toward buying food, helping her brother, and saving for necessities. Tom understood this, and he admired her dedication. He also realized that the world they lived in was not always fair, and that their friendship might face challenges from outsiders who did not understand them. One afternoon, as the sun beat down on the dusty streets, a group of men began teasing Aylin. They laughed at her handmade goods, made rude comments, and tried to push her little table aside. Aylin remained calm, her hands steady as she protected her wares, but the situation was tense. Tom, who had been nearby, rushed forward. He stood between Aylin and the men, his hat pulled low, eyes serious. "Leave her alone," he said firmly. The men were taken aback by his courage and the fire in his eyes. They muttered under their breath but eventually walked away, leaving Aylin and her brother in peace. Aylin looked at Tom, a mixture of surprise and gratitude on her face. She had faced discrimination before, but his willingness to stand up for her made her feel safe in a way she had rarely experienced. For Tom, the act was natural. He could not allow anyone to harm or disrespect someone he cared about. That day, as they packed up her table together, a bond of trust grew stronger between them. They did not need words to understand each other. Their actions, patience, and courage spoke louder than any conversation ever could. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Tom and Aylin continued to meet at the trading post, always finding ways to help each other. Tom learned more about her life, about the struggles her family faced, and about the traditions and stories that shaped her world. Aylin learned about Tom's dreams, his hopes for the future, and the difficulties he faced trying to make a living as a poor cowboy. They began to share meals, laughter, and stories, each moment deepening their understanding and respect for one another. One evening, as the sun began to set over the horizon, painting the sky with orange and pink hues, Tom and Aylin sat together near the river. Her little brother played nearby, skipping stones across the water. Tom handed her a small piece of bread, and she smiled, her eyes reflecting the fading sunlight.
For a moment, the world felt peaceful, almost magical.
They did not speak much, but there was comfort in simply being near each other. Tom felt a quiet joy he had never known. Aylin, too, felt a sense of calm, knowing she had found someone she could trust. As time went on, their friendship became more than just simple gestures and daily meetings. Tom began to see Aylin not just as someone to help, but as a person he admired deeply. Her courage, kindness, and intelligence inspired him. Aylin, in turn, began to see Tom as more than a friendly cowboy. She recognized his honesty, his patience, and the genuine way he cared for her and her little brother. Their feelings grew quietly, naturally, like a river carving its path through the land, strong, steady, and unstoppable. Even with their growing connection, life remained difficult. The frontier was harsh, and opportunities for both of them were limited. Tom often worried about how he could provide a better life, not just for himself, but for Aylin as well. Aylin worried about her safety, her family, and the judgments of the townspeople.
Yet, together, they found ways to face these challenges.
They worked side by side, learning from each other and supporting one another in ways that money or status could never provide. One particular day, a storm approached the town. The sky darkened, and the wind whipped dust and debris across the streets. Tom noticed Aylin struggling to secure her table and goods against the rising wind. Without hesitation, he ran to help her. They worked together, laughing despite the chaos, as the first drops of rain began to fall. When the storm passed, they were soaked, exhausted, and covered in mud. But there was a shared sense of accomplishment. They had faced the storm together, and neither of them had been afraid because they knew they had each other's support. That evening, as they sat by a small fire near the trading post, sharing what little food they had, Tom realized that his life had changed in ways he had never expected. The simple act of buying 2 drinks and giving a sack of wheat had turned into a friendship that meant more to him than anything else. Aylin, too, recognized that her life had shifted. She had found someone who did not judge her, someone who respected her, and someone who cared for her and her family. Their bond was built on trust, respect, and shared experiences, and it was growing stronger every day. Tom understood that this friendship, though simple at first, could grow into something much more meaningful. He began to think about the future, not just for himself, but for both of them. He wanted to find ways to make life better, to protect her, and to show her that kindness and love could exist even in a world that often seemed cruel. Aylin, in turn, began to hope that she had found a companion who would stand by her through life's challenges, someone who would honor her strength and courage, not just her appearance or social position. By the end of that year, Tom and Aylin had become inseparable in the eyes of those who watched. Their friendship, built on simple acts of kindness and growing mutual respect, had grown into a quiet, unspoken love. They shared laughter, tears, and moments of reflection, learning more about each other and themselves every day. Tom knew that the journey ahead would not be easy, but he also knew that with Aylin by his side, they could face whatever life threw at them. And so, from small beginnings, 2 drinks and a humble sack of wheat, grew a friendship that would shape the rest of their lives.
It was a story of trust, courage, patience, and the quiet power of human kindness.
Each day they spent together strengthened their bond, preparing them for the challenges and joys that lay ahead. In the harsh, unforgiving world of the frontier, they had found a connection that was rare, beautiful, and strong. Life for Tom Harris and Aylin continued to move forward, but as the days passed, challenges began to grow more serious. Their friendship had deepened into a quiet love, but the world around them was not always kind. Perception.
Some townsfolk still looked at them with suspicion.
Poor Cowboy and a young Apache woman spending so much time together were considered an unusual pair in a town where social rules and prejudices ran deep. Tom, however, did not let the whispers or stares affect him. He focused on working hard and protecting Aylin, quietly determined to show that kindness, honesty, and courage mattered more than wealth or status.
One hot afternoon, a traveling merchant arrived in town.
He carried goods from faraway places, shiny trinkets, cloth, and small tools. Many townspeople flocked to him, eager to trade or buy. Aylin saw an opportunity to sell some of her baskets and necklaces to travelers, hoping to earn a little more for her family. She packed her wares carefully, placing her best items in the front to attract attention. Tom watched from a distance, quietly ensuring that her little brother stayed safe while she worked. Even in a bustling crowd, Tom's eyes never left her breath. He noticed when someone got too close or made her uncomfortable, and he would subtly step in to protect her, though never in a way that embarrassed her.
As the day went on, one of the merchant's assistants, a tall, rough man, began teasing Aylin.
He tried to grab a basket and laughed at her in a mocking voice. Aylin stood her ground, holding her basket tightly, but she could feel her frustration and fear rising. Tom, noticing the situation, moved quickly. He stepped between Aylin and the man, his hat pulled low, his voice firm. "You need to leave her alone," he said, not raising his voice, but speaking with authority. The man sneered, thinking he could intimidate Tom, but Tom's steady gaze made him pause. Eventually, he muttered an insult under his breath and walked away. Aylin exhaled, relief washing over her. Tom simply nodded, a quiet acknowledgement that they would always look out for each other.
That evening, after the crowd had dispersed, Tom and Aylin walked together to a nearby river to cool off.
The day had been long, and the air was still hot and heavy. The river's water glistened in the setting sun, and the sound of small waves hitting the rocks was soothing. Tom handed Aylin a piece of bread he had saved from lunch, and she smiled at him, her eyes reflecting gratitude and something deeper: trust, admiration, and growing affection. They did not speak much at first. Words were unnecessary. Their shared experiences, small acts of protection, and mutual respect had already formed a bond stronger than words could describe. Over the following weeks, Tom and Aylin faced other challenges as well. Winter was approaching, and the nights were growing colder. Tom's cabin was small, with only one room and a stone fireplace. He worried about how he could provide warmth, food, and safety for Aylin if she were to spend more time with him. Aylin, too, knew that joining Tom would mean leaving some parts of her old life behind, stepping into a world that was not always welcoming to people like her. Despite these worries, they found comfort in each other's presence. Tom would gather firewood, repair his cabin, and prepare simple meals, while Aylin helped where she could, teaching him to prepare small dishes using the few ingredients they had. One particularly cold evening, a heavy snow began to fall. The town streets were quickly covered in white, making travel difficult. Tom noticed that some neighbors were struggling to keep warm and survive the freezing night. Breaths. He offered what little he could spare, firewood, blankets, and food, to those in need. Aylin joined him, carrying supplies to families who could not make the journey themselves. Together, they worked quietly and tirelessly, helping others without expecting anything in return. Their actions did not go unnoticed. Some townsfolk began to see them not as an unusual pair, but as people of courage, generosity, and character. During this time, their friendship grew even deeper. They shared stories by the fireplace, laughter echoing softly in the small cabin. Aylin told Tom about her life before coming to the town, the stories her family had shared, the lessons she had learned, and the hardships she had faced. Tom listened attentively, fascinated by her resilience and wisdom. In turn, he shared stories of his own childhood, the struggles of a poor cowboy, and his dreams for a better future. Their conversations were simple but meaningful, creating a foundation of trust and understanding that would carry them through harder times. Despite the growing closeness between them, life continued to test their bond. One day, a wealthy rancher approached Tom. He offered a job working on a large cattle ranch with better pay and more security than Tom had ever experienced. It was an opportunity that could change Tom's life, but it also meant leaving Aylin behind temporarily. Perhaps Tom faced a difficult decision. He wanted to provide a better life for himself and Aylin, but he did not want to leave her vulnerable or alone. After much thought, he decided to accept the job, but only after ensuring that Aelin would be safe and taken care of while he was away. This decision showed both his determination to improve their future and his unwavering care for her well-being. While Tom was away at the ranch, Aelin continued to work at the trading post, earning enough to support herself and her brother. She missed Tom greatly, but found comfort in the lessons he had taught her: patience, courage, and the importance of kindness. She also discovered her own strength, handling challenges independently while maintaining her dignity and composure. The distance between them, though difficult, reinforced their respect and admiration for each other. They both realized that their bond was strong enough to endure hardships, and that the love and friendship they shared were worth protecting and nurturing. When Tom returned from the ranch after several months, the reunion was heartfelt. Aelin ran to meet him, her eyes shining with relief and joy. Tom held her close, feeling the warmth and comfort of being reunited with someone who had become so important in his life. They laughed, shared stories of their time apart, and marveled at how much they had both grown. The challenges they had faced only made their bond stronger, proving that love and trust could survive even in the harshest conditions. In the months that followed, Tom and Aelin continued to build a life together, learning from each other and supporting one another. They faced challenges, cold winters, limited resources, and societal judgment, but they always found a way to overcome them. Tom admired Aelin's intelligence, courage, and unwavering spirit. Aelin admired Tom's honesty, patience, and protective nature. Together, they were stronger than they had been alone. By the end of this period, their relationship had evolved into something undeniable. Their friendship had blossomed into love, rooted in shared experiences, mutual respect, and acts of courage. The small gestures of kindness that had started their story, the 2 drinks and the sack of wheat, had grown into a partnership built on trust, resilience, and deep emotional connection. They knew that the road ahead would continue to have obstacles, but they faced it together, ready to meet life's challenges side by side. The town, which had once been skeptical of their friendship, began to notice their dedication to one another and to the community. People whispered about the unusual bond between the poor cowboy and the young Apache woman, but over time, admiration replaced doubt. Their story became an example of how compassion, courage, and respect could overcome prejudice and suspicion. Tom and Aelin's connection was no longer just a private bond. It was slowly becoming a quiet legend in the town, a tale of love and resilience that inspired others. Through all the trials, both small and large, Tom and Aelin discovered that life's challenges could not break the bond they had formed. Every obstacle they faced together strengthened their trust, deepened their love, and taught them lessons about patience, courage, and the value of kindness. They realized that while life on the frontier was harsh and unpredictable, it was also full of moments of beauty, connection, and hope. Moments that could shape the rest of their lives. And so, from the first simple act of generosity to the trials and challenges they had faced together, Tom and Aelin's story continued to grow. Their friendship had become a love that was tested by adversity, strengthened by respect, and sustained by courage. Each day they spent together added to their shared story, preparing them for the even greater challenges that would come in the future. In the harsh, unforgiving world of the frontier, they had found something rare, beautiful, and unbreakable. A bond built on love, trust, and unwavering support. Life on the frontier had taught Tom Harris and Aelin many lessons. They had faced hardships together, learned patience, and discovered the strength of trust and kindness. But as their bond grew stronger, life tested them in ways neither of them had anticipated. But it was one thing to survive daily struggles, but it was another to face decisions that could change their lives forever.
One afternoon, as the hot sun hung high in the sky, Tom rode into town after a long day of working his few cattle.
His body ached, and his shirt was soaked with sweat. But his mind was focused on Aelin, perspective. He had noticed that she seemed quieter than usual over the past week. Her usual smile was faint, and her hands trembled slightly as she arranged her goods at the trading post. Tom's heart sank as he approached her, realizing that something serious was troubling her.
Is everything all right? He asked gently.
Island looked up, hesitating for a moment, and then shook her head. Her eyes, usually so steady, were clouded with worry. She explained that some men from the town had begun pressuring her to leave. They claimed that it was not proper for a young Apache woman to spend so much time with a cowboy, especially one as poor as Tom. They had made threats, some whispered and some direct, warning her that trouble could come if she did not comply. Tom listened carefully, his jaw tightening. He had expected prejudice, but hearing it expressed in such a threatening way filled him with anger and determination. He could not allow anyone to intimidate Island or force her to leave. She had done nothing wrong. She was kind, hardworking, and courageous. And more than anything, she was someone he cared for deeply. "We will face this together," Tom said firmly. "I will not let anyone hurt you, and I will not let you face this alone." Aylin's eyes filled with tears. She had faced many hardships in her life, but this was different. She had felt alone before, struggling to survive and care for her younger brother. Now, standing with Tom, she felt a sense of safety and hope she had never known. They began making plans, thinking through every possible scenario. Tom would increase his protection, ensuring that they were not caught off guard. Island would be careful in public, but she refused to hide or shrink from life. Together they were stronger than any threat that might come their way. Turned into weeks, and the tension in town grew. Tom remained vigilant, keeping watch over Aylin whenever she worked at the trading post. He made sure her little brother was safe and that they had enough supplies to face any unexpected challenges. He repaired his cabin, adding stronger doors and reinforcing the fireplace, preparing for the cold months ahead. Each night, they sat together and spoke quietly, planning and supporting each other. Their bond, tested by the pressures of the town, grew even stronger. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day, Tom and Island sat by the small river near town. The sky was painted with deep orange and purple hues as the sun set behind the distant hills. Aylin leaned against Tom, her head resting lightly on his shoulder. For a moment, they allowed themselves to forget the challenges and simply enjoy each other's presence. The river's gentle flow, the soft rustling of trees, and the distant calls of wildlife created a calm world where they could breathe freely. "Tom," Island said softly, looking into his eyes, "I am afraid. What if things get worse? What if we cannot stay together?"
Her voice trembled slightly, revealing the depth of her worry.
Tom took her hands in his, holding them firmly. "We will face whatever comes," he said, his voice steady and filled with conviction. "We have come this far together, and I promise you, I will not let anyone or anything come between us. You are not alone anymore. We will protect each other." Her tears fell silently as she nodded. Tom wrapped his arm around her, holding her close. They sat like that for hours, drawing strength from each other, knowing that the challenges they faced were not just external but also tests of their courage and love. It was in these quiet moments that they truly realized how much they meant to one another and how much they were willing to endure for the sake of their bond. The following weeks brought both danger and opportunity. A small group of townsfolk who had been skeptical of their friendship began causing trouble, spreading rumors and attempting to intimidate Island. Tom responded calmly but decisively. He spoke to the men, reminding them that Aylin had done nothing wrong and that threats or intimidation would not be tolerated. Some of the men left, grumbling, while others continued to watch from a distance. Despite the tension, Tom and Aylin refused to back down. They continued their daily lives, working, sharing meals, and supporting each other. One particularly challenging day, Eileen received news from her family that made her heart ache. Her younger brother had fallen ill, and the local doctor was unavailable. She panicked, unsure how she would manage without help. Tom, seeing her distress, immediately took action. He rode to the nearest town to find medical supplies and assistance, returning hours later with what was needed. He stayed by the boy's side, tending to him and ensuring he received care, while Aylin rested and regained her strength. Together they managed to nurse him back to health, and in the process, their trust and reliance on each other deepened. As the months passed, the cold winter winds began to blow, bringing snow and harsh weather. Tom and Eileen worked tirelessly to prepare for the season. They repaired the cabin, stored food and firewood, and made plans to survive the cold months. Despite the physical hardship, they found moments of joy and connection. They shared stories by the fire, laughed over small mistakes, and found comfort in each other's presence. Each day, their love grew stronger, fueled by shared experiences and mutual respect. One night, as a heavy snowstorm raged outside, Tom turned to Aylin with determination in his eyes. "Aylin," he said softly, "I cannot imagine my life without you. You have been with me through everything, through danger, hardship, and uncertainty. I want you to be by my side, not just as a friend, but as my partner for life. Will you marry me?" Eilin's eyes widened, and for a moment she could not speak. Tears filled her eyes as she realized the depth of his commitment and the strength of his love. Finally, she nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes, Tom! I will marry you!" The promise of marriage brought both relief and joy. They knew that life would still be difficult, but now they faced it together, officially united by their love and commitment. Their bond had been tested by threats, prejudice, illness, and harsh weather, but each challenge had strengthened their connection. They had learned that courage, patience, and unwavering support could overcome almost any obstacle. In the following weeks, they began preparing for their life together as a married couple. They worked side by side, planning meals, organizing their cabin, and tending to the small plot of land they had cleared for farming. Eileen taught Tom new ways to cook, store food, and care for the home. Tom, in turn, taught her skills he had learned as a cowboy, mending fences, caring for livestock, and navigating the harsh terrain of the frontier.
They complemented each other perfectly, their partnership rooted in respect, trust, and love.
Even as winter grew harsher, Tom and Eileen found moments of warmth and happiness. They shared stories by the fire, played games with Eileen's younger brother, and watched the snow fall silently over the plains. Life was not easy, but it was filled with meaning. They had discovered that love was not just about words or promises. It was about standing by each other through adversity, protecting one another, and finding joy in the small, quiet moments. Their story, once small and simple, a poor cowboy giving 2 drinks and a sack of wheat, had grown into something much larger. It was now a story of courage, love, and resilience. The trials they had faced together had forged an unbreakable bond, one that would carry them through the rest of their lives. Each challenge had strengthened their connection, teaching them that true love was not about convenience or comfort, but about mutual respect, unwavering support, and a willingness to face life's difficulties together. By the end of this period, Tom and Eileen had reached a turning point. They had survived threats, prejudice, illness, and harsh weather. They had faced challenges that would have broken many, but their love and commitment to each other had only grown stronger. They were ready to move forward together, united as partners in life, fully aware of the hardships they might still face, but confident in their ability to overcome them together. And so, on the frontier, amidst the snow and the wind, the story of Tom Harris and Eileen had reached its peak moment. Their love, tested by fire and hardship, had proven unbreakable. The challenges they faced had revealed their true character, strengthened their bond, and prepared them for the life they would build together. It was a story of courage, perseverance, and the quiet power of love, one that would continue into the future, shaping their lives and inspiring others for years to come. The harsh winter slowly began to fade, and the first signs of spring appeared on the plains. Snow melted into small streams, grass started to peek from the earth, and the sun brought warmth back to the land. Tom Harris and Island, now promised to each other, looked at the changing world around them with renewed hope. Their cabin, once small and humble, now felt like a home filled with love, warmth, and promise. Each day they worked together, mending fences, tending to their few cows, and planning for the life they would share as husband and wife. Even though their bond had grown strong, life on the frontier was never easy. Resources were limited, and each day required effort, patience, and careful planning. Tom and Island faced these challenges side by side. Tom often rode to neighboring towns to trade goods or earn extra money, while Aileen managed their cabin, cared for her younger brother, and sold handmade baskets and necklaces at the trading post. Despite the hard work, they always found time for each other. Each evening they would sit by the fire, sharing a simple meal and recounting the events of the day. These quiet moments were precious, reminding them of the journey that had brought them together. Island's younger brother became a source of joy for both Tom and Island. Tom treated him like a son, teaching him small skills he had learned as a cowboy, how to ride a horse, care for animals, and navigate the open plains. Island watched with admiration as Tom patiently guided the boy, knowing that his influence would help shape the young boy's future. Together, the three of them formed a family of love, respect, and support. Their laughter echoed across the plains, carrying with it a sense of happiness and security that had once seemed impossible. As the seasons changed, so did the opportunities before them. Tom had learned enough from his previous work on larger ranches to improve his own small plot of land. He and Aileen began planting crops, using the sack of wheat that had started their story as seeds to grow food for themselves and their future. It was a slow and sometimes uncertain process, but with patience and determination they began to see the fruits of their labor. Each sprouting plant, each small harvest felt like a triumph. It reminded them that life, like farming, required care, effort, and faith in the future.
Their life together also brought them closer to the townspeople.
Those who had once doubted or whispered about their friendship began to see the strength of their bond. People noticed the respect, generosity, and courage that Tom and Island showed in their daily lives. Slowly, admiration replaced doubt. Some neighbors began seeking their advice, asking for help, or simply showing kindness in return. Tom and Island had become quiet examples of integrity, demonstrating that true wealth was not measured by money or status, but by character, kindness, and the love shared between people.
Even in this period of growth, challenges continued to appear.
One summer, a sudden illness spread through the town, affecting many families, including Aileen's. Her younger brother fell ill once again, and the nearest doctor was several miles away. Tom and Aileen worked tirelessly to care for him, using herbal remedies and old-fashioned methods to nurse him back to health. The long days and nights tested their patience and strength, but neither gave up. Their teamwork, resilience, and unwavering support for each other carried them through the crisis. When the boy finally recovered, relief and gratitude filled the home. They had learned, once again, that together they could overcome almost any hardship. Through all these trials, their love grew steadily. Tom often reflected on the journey that had brought them together. The simple act of buying 2 drinks and giving a sack of wheat that had started everything. He marveled at how life's small gestures could lead to great outcomes. Island, too, thought about the kindness he had shown her from the very beginning, recognizing that it had not been wealth or strength that mattered, but the goodness of his heart. Each day their admiration for one another deepened, forming a foundation of trust and devotion that no challenge could shake. As their relationship matured, Tom and Island began thinking about the future beyond their small cabin and trading post. They dreamed of raising a family, expanding their land, and building a home that would provide comfort and security for generations to come.
These dreams were not extravagant, but they were meaningful.
They represented hope, stability, and the promise of a life filled with love, respect, and shared responsibility. Together they planned each step carefully, knowing that the work they did now would shape their future. One autumn afternoon, as the leaves turned gold and red, Tom and Aylin decided to make their commitment official. They invited a few trusted friends and neighbors to witness their union. But the ceremony was simple but beautiful. The small cabin was decorated with wildflowers, and the warm sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a golden glow on the gathering. Tom looked at Aylin, holding her hands firmly in his, and promised to care for her, protect her, and honor her for the rest of his life. Aylin responded with the same vow, her eyes shining with love and determination. Their words, spoken with sincerity and devotion, marked the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. After the ceremony, they celebrated quietly with their guests, sharing simple food, laughter, and stories. The joy in the cabin was tangible, a reflection of the journey that had brought them together. Friends and neighbors congratulated them, some expressing surprise at how far they had come, while others praised the courage, integrity, and love that had sustained them through difficult times. Tom and Aylin listened humbly, grateful for the support, but their greatest happiness came from simply being together, knowing that they had built a life based on respect, trust, and devotion. Life continued, not without challenges, but with renewed purpose. Tom and Aylin worked side by side, managing their small farm, caring for animals, and ensuring that their home remained a place of warmth and security. Aylin's younger brother grew stronger and more confident each day, learning from both Tom and Aylin about life, work, and the value of kindness. Together they formed a family that was not defined by wealth or status, but by love, commitment, and shared responsibility. The story of their humble beginnings, 2 drinks and a sack of wheat, remained a constant reminder of how small acts of kindness could shape the course of life. Tom often recounted the day he first met Aylin to neighbors or travelers, not to boast, but to emphasize the power of compassion, generosity, and respect. Aylin, too, remembered that day, understanding that her life had changed not because of riches or luck, but because someone had seen her as a person worthy of care and trust. Together they carried the lesson forward in their daily lives, modeling love, patience, and resilience to those around them.
As years passed, their life together became a blend of routine, joy, and occasional hardship.
Seasons changed, crops grew and were harvested, animals thrived under their care, and their home became a place of warmth and love. They laughed, cried, and celebrated together, sharing the triumphs and challenges of each day. Their love, tested by adversity and strengthened by shared experiences, remained steadfast and unwavering. In quiet moments, Tom and Aylin would sit together, watching the sunset over the plains. The memories of their journey, the challenges they had faced, the dangers they had overcome, and the love that had grown from small gestures, filled them with gratitude and wonder. They understood that life was not always easy, but it was made meaningful by the people we care for, the love we share, and the courage we show in the face of hardship. By the end of their story, Tom Harris and Aylin had built more than just a home. They had built a life founded on trust, respect, and unwavering love. They had faced prejudice, poverty, illness, and danger. And yet, through it all, they remained devoted to one another. Their journey, which had begun with 2 drinks and a humble sack of wheat, had become a testament to the power of kindness, courage, and commitment. Their love endured through the years, growing stronger with each passing day. It inspired others in their town, reminding everyone that true wealth is not measured in gold or possessions, but in the strength of character, the courage to face life's challenges, and the willingness to love and support one another unconditionally. And Aylin's story became a quiet legend in the region, a tale of resilience, hope, and the transformative power of human kindness. Even in old age, they would sit together by the fire, holding hands, recounting stories of their youth, and smiling at the memory of the day their journey began. Breath. They had come so far from the simple meeting at the trading post, yet it was the same kindness, honesty, and courage that had guided them then, guiding them still. Their life together had been full of work, challenges, and sacrifice, but it had also been full of joy, love, and fulfillment. And so, the story of Tom Harris and Aylin, the poor cowboy who gave 2 drinks and a sack of wheat, and the Apache woman who became his wife, ended not with a grand gesture or a sudden fortune, but with a life well lived. They had built a home, raised a family, and nurtured a love that had been tested and proven strong. In the quiet plains of Arizona, their story remained a reminder that small acts of kindness could lead to extraordinary journeys, and that true love is born from respect, trust, and unwavering devotion.